Hey everybody, Ethan here, and you're on my side of the room. Today we say goodbye to my keyboard. I don't know how I became an equipment dealer, and yet here I am. What happened was we had our show recently at the CSL, and as part of that I bought a guitar at the pawn shop to bail out our guitarist because both his guitars were screwed up in the wrong way. And it was a gamble doing a pawn shop guitar, but I went to the closest one that seemed actually kind of promising as pawn shops go. And I'm really happy with my cheapo Squire Strat. It's an Affinity, by the way. But you know what? The bottom line on this sort of stuff is tone really is in the fingers, and Guillerme is a much more accomplished guitarist than I am. And the stuff he made this do was amazing. So don't give me this that Squire is just utter crap and unplayable, because it's very much playable. Guillerme's here to prove it. Not here, but I mean he did it. Yeah, nicer guitars are nicer, certainly. But for what I need this for, it got the job done. For what he needed it for, it got the job done. So that's kind of the deal. Well, the music director came up to me Sunday and he's like, "So, the pawn shop you went to, do they have any keyboards?" Well, they did. But he's like, "Yeah, I've got this really crummy keyboard at home and I want to replace it and get something else." And I'm like, "Well, I'll sell you this." Which is weird because I do use this, and videos have shown I do plug in like this to the Joyo when I do the drum loops and stuff. But I'm not a keyboard player, and he is. So he is very much a pianist. In fact, he has a grand piano at his home. But his thing is, he's like, "Yeah, that's well and good, but there's like a window of time he can play that before the neighbors get pissed. So he would like to have a decent keyboard to screw around at like 5 in the morning when he's inspired." So I'm like, "Well, decent keyboard, huh?" Because to be honest, yes, the pawn shop near me had some keyboards, but I just really think he'd just be replacing something he kind of had with something else that they had, and it wouldn't have been much of a difference from what I can tell. Whereas this is going to be a very noticeable difference. It samples a $250,000 piano as its default piano setting. What I'm not going to do in this video is like a whole big tone demo of this. There's no point. It's going away tomorrow. So, and by the time this video is up, it'll be pretty much gone. Just wanted to acknowledge that this is going away behind me. But in true me fashion, it's going to be replaced with something else. Now, depending, I may check out the merchandise and see what he's getting rid of, or like what he's trying to replace, because it may suit my purposes in ways that it doesn't suit his, and we might be able to swing some kind of like throw it in while we're at it kind of thing. Because I mean, he's getting a $300 something or other keyboard for way less than that. I didn't pay that much either, as I had gift cards through work at Guitar Center, so that's how that happened. But I didn't actually set out to get this. I went to get the smaller PS whatever 373, and they were sold out, and this was the bigger version of it. It's the 76 key instead of the 60 or whatever. And so it's a very nice keyboard. My thing is, I really wanted to have MIDI in and out. It technically does, but in ways that it's got such a caveat that it might as well just not. Now, it does have MIDI out, I can assure you that. I did screw around with plugging it in through various ways and means into the iPad and plugged it into GarageBand, and I controlled the synth using this. Well, this has synth settings to an extent. Not to the extent that an actual synth would, but it has synthy tones or whatever. Just those guys that likes to do that whole low-pass filter knob stuff, that's not this. So, but that's not what I do anyway. I really use this ever as a songwriting tool, but honestly, back in the day when I had a keyboard, the thing I used it for was drum machine programming. And the sequencer, it was a step sequencer on the Yamaha YS200. And it was perfect for me to program the drums visually instead of like pounding out the drum pads and having to do the layering. And it was great. I got so much work done. Well, the YS200 is gone. It died. So it wasn't one of those things like I could still have it today, because it just, no, it died. So this does not have step sequencing. I mean, it's got like a 2-track recorder, but again, you have to be a keyboard player that I'm not to really get a lot out of it. And so I'm getting, and I'll reveal later what I'm getting, but I'm throwing way back. I'm throwing back older school than my YS200, what I'm getting. But the key is it's got MIDI in and out with the 5-pin connectors. I'm simulating that here. In my heart of hearts, what I really want to do is get an Arturia BeatStep Pro and have that be my controller. Route that to the SR16 for the drums, and then to the keyboard for the keyboardy nonsense. The thing that's kind of funny is I'll look at this different gear and they'll have like these prefab presets. Like this has prefab presets for drums, as an example, which I've used. And in many ways, they're better than the SR16. Well, think of the SR16 as a blacksmith's anvil, okay? So a blacksmith is not supposed to say they don't have the tools for the job, because they should be able to make their own tools that they lack using their blacksmithing prowess. Now, I don't know, it's like chicken and egg to me. Like, doesn't the blacksmith have to have some kind of tool to start with, or like a hammer or something? And then where did that come from? Like, did you get it from some other blacksmith, or how does that go? But the point being that, yes, there's presets on the SR16. Yes, there's presets on the Yamaha EW310 or whatever this is behind me. But it's kind of like scrapbooking versus art. Back in the days when I used to scrapbook and all that crap, you know, I would hunt around the aisles at all the different stores looking for like the perfect embellishment. And it was the dumbest thing, because really when it came down to it, it's like, well, as an artist, couldn't you just make it? Like, why do you have to have some product sell it to you? Like, here's a flower or something like that, that you have to buy off the rack at the store, instead of using your own creativity to create the thing that's in your head, right? So with these presets, this has them, it's going away, it's being replaced with something else that has presets. But for the I'm not wearing my bass at the moment. There. For the purposes of my bass playing, I want to create loops and sounds and things and stuff that are fun to play to. It's weird, it's stupid. I'm pointing to the screen you can't see right now, the YouTube TV that's over here off to my side. YouTube is full of loops and backing tracks and all this kind of stuff, and I've made another video about them, about, you know, hey, backing tracks, don't sleep on those. And I stand by that. But it's another form of shopping at all the different stores looking for the perfect loop or backing track or rhythm or whatever, right? Well, my feeling is, rightly or wrongly, that the Beat Step Pro is going to be the sketchbook or the palette or whatever to, again, the blacksmith's anvil. I mean, that's what that's going to then be, is that because it's going to tie into the SR16, it'll be my way of step sequencing the SR16 and making my life easier on myself instead of hand punching in each thing on the SR16 and that whole ordeal. And then using the keyboard for layering, not so much bass loop thingies or whatever that a lot of these guys do with their synthy DAW-less jams or whatever. The more I look at DAW-less jamming, I'm very conflicted. Part of me is like, I like some of what I'm seeing and hearing, and some of it's very tedious. I'll just be honest. And I think the DAW-less jamming crowd kind of knows that too. Enough that there's an ongoing joke at Bad Gear about, hey, you want to go to my 3-hour DAW-less jam this weekend? Hell no! So the thing is, let's draw another comparison here, because it's just what I'm doing today. All right, remember these? These adult coloring books. Same thing. Again, if you're an artist, can't you just draw the picture yourself? Like, why do you need to go out and buy adult coloring books that have the perfect, not color by numbers, because they don't tell you what color to use. You in your mind can be like, well, this must be brown because this is clearly wood or whatever, but you can color whatever you want, right? The thing is that when I was messing around with these adult coloring books, it got me in that creative mode. And I went from coloring books to writing books. It seems weird, like, well, wait, what does that have to do with one to the other? Again, it was the creative mode. I was messing around with, like, challenging myself to do an array of whatever with, like, just 6 colors. This, or this, or this. So when I got into that creative mode, suddenly I just started writing a book. So with that being the case, I think that's why I'm kind of gravitating at least towards the idea of DAW-less jamming. Because the DAW thing, first of all, my computer sucks complete ass. So a DAW just isn't realistic, not even Reaper. This thing can barely run Word. So it's Reaper, it's on there, but it's not something that's going to really be a thing. And it introduces a layer of complexity on top of everything else that how many learning curves do you need after a while, I'm not knocking the idea of like Reaper or DAWs as a general idea, but again, for my purposes, and for what I want to get out of my gear, basically, I just can't do it with this. I didn't realize that this would be a shortcoming when I bought it. I was much more focused on, Jeremy C. says this is like the ultimate keyboard everyone should own, so I went out and bought it because I could. And that's great if you're someone like Jeremy C. and you play actual piano and stuff, but I don't. And so after a while, I'm much more into the sequencing aspects of it. So that's why I had to reach way retro old school for what I didn't have to. But I chose to reach way retro old school for what I'm getting now, winging its way here from Washington State. And possibly whatever Jonathan's got kicking around the house. Again, maybe it might serve my purposes as well. But at any rate, I'm going to kind of cut it there. I'm just going to say goodbye to this keyboard. You've served me well in the ways that you've served me. But it's time for something else. So in the meantime, keep learning, keep playing, and I'll catch you in the next video.